me, but you cannot hear anyone else. So I am pulling myself back up on here, and you are going away from this. Go away from the stage. Thank you. All right. But you cannot hear anyone else. So I am pulling myself back up on here, and you are going away from this. Go away from the stage. You guys have not been able to hear me this whole time. Okay, I don't care anymore. I've had enough technical difficulties today. I do not care anymore. All right, genre and tone. This is a western. How do you know it is a western? It has a cowboy on it. This is an Amish romance. Because and how do you know this? It has an Amish lady on it. This is where we start running into trouble. What would you say this is? It is an erotic romance. There is a current I don't even want to say issue. There is a current trend in the romance and erotica genre to do these kind of cutesy, cartoony, animated covers. Um, I have heard several anecdotal stories from school librarians who are getting asked to get like there was a hockey erotica romance that came out that's called Icebreakers, and it had this really cute cartoony hockey player and figure skater. It is a the sex scene in that is really intense, but it looks like a teen cover. So there is some pushback now from different groups um, saying that the trend really needs to die. Other people are saying that they will not read a book that has a person on the cover. In fact, I don't even have any here because right now the trend for having people on the cover has actually gone down. Back in when I was in teenager, that was all you saw in romances. You would see like guys with their shirts ripped off, women with like they'd have their hands like on their dresses going to rip them off. That's where you get the term bodice ripper. Literally, it looked like they were going to rip off her clothing on the cover. So if you ever hear so if you ever hear someone say the term bodice ripper, it's because of what the covers looked like. Yeah. Yeah. There's there's issues with them, but all right, we're going back to my thing now. Can I be heard? Hang on. Yes, yes, I can. Okay. All right. Just need to make sure I could be heard again. So I'm going to close this off again because I have another person in here and I want to show them my slideshow, but I don't want you guys to see them. Sorry, you don't get to see the people who come to. All right. This is why it's important. This is the exact same book. This is the one I was talking about where I've seen images on social media talking about the one on the one that looks like a western. So the one that looks like a western is it looks like someone just saw the title of the book and made a cover all quiet on the western front. This is a very big World War One or World War One? World War One novel about about people and about guys an entire school of German schoolboys on in World War One and how many of them die in the trenches, how many of them are injured. So the one on the from me looking at it, the one on the right, that is more true to the book. That's going to give you the more genre expectation. If you pick this book up with the one on the left, you'd be thinking it's a western. You would be highly disappointed. So that is something you need to think about when you are making a cover for your book or you are buying cover because I'll cover that further on when we get into the actual making your own cover. You can buy covers pre-made. Yeah, you can buy they're about 100 to 200 and uh yeah, there are people who just sell them like that. There are people who you can pay to make them for like 200, $250. And yeah, you can also make them yourself. Canva has a template for it. All right. Expectations. This is also tying back into the genre and tone. Um, you do not want to, if you are going to make a book and you don't want it to be associated with another book. For instance, you make a book with two hands holding like a piece of fruit with a black background. What book cover is that bringing to mind when I say that? That's Twilight. That is the original Twilight cover. It was a red apple in two hands. It's one of the more well-known ones. Or you don't want a book that looks like Danielle Steele's book titles and then yours to look the same because they're going to think it's the same, either the same author, or if you write something completely different, they're going to be expecting one thing and you give them another and they will rip you apart in the reviews for it. It would be like someone doing like the opening scene for a drama on TV is like at a hospital, so you're like, "Oh, this is a medical drama," and then it turns out, no, it's a crime drama with lawyers and stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's been done on things like SVU, Law& and Order SVU, but everyone knows what Law& and Order SVU is now. They didn't do that when they first started out. They would start out with the crime scene, so you knew it was a crime drama, not a medical drama. So it is, a lot of it is just remembering you need to remember your audience. And you need to think common sense. Common sense, you would think, but no, it's not common sense. Common sense is not common. I wish it was. All right, why this is important. This is another one. Turn of the Screw. It is a very gothic um, horror that I do recommend people reading because it's a foundation for a lot of the like creepy children haunted house stories and movies we get. Um, the one on the right is going to tell you more about that than the one on the left that looks like it's for a construction manual. Something that happens a lot is AI covers do that. They just put in whatever. The one on the left I highly think is actually an AI cover that someone just put "Turn of the Screw" into an AI image generator, and that's what they got, and they slapped it on there without thinking. Because "Turn of the Screw" I think is now in public domain, maybe, which means anyone can take it and like sell it. It's the same with like some of the Sherlock Holmes, um, the original Winnie the Pooh, not the Disney-fied version. If Winnie the Pooh is wearing a red shirt, that is Disney and it's not in the public domain. If the bear is just a bear and no clothing, then you have the original Milne works, and those are public domain. It I will do a thing talking about that at a later time because it's just complicated. Basically, if you can find it on Project Gutenberg, you can probably sell it elsewhere. Yep, she's talking about the, Winnie the Pooh horror movie that is based on the Milne books, not on the Disney, because Disney still has the trademark. Disney's the reason why trademark law is so weird in the United States, or one of the reasons. I can't be all mean towards them, there have been others, but Disney is the main one. So, generally, I think 70 years after the death of the creator. So there's a lot of books like Pride and Prejudice. Anyone could take Pride and Prejudice, take the script for it, take the manuscript for it, and they could publish it and get money off of it because it's in the public domain. That's why you can get stuff like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, which is a book and a movie. It is there. We have it upstairs in the teen, and we have the movie out front. Um, but yeah, they're that's how you get these things that happen. So I'll go over AI covers again later on. I personally don't like them because I don't like the use of AI for various reasons. All right. Final one is going to be brand identity. This is not going to apply to all authors or publishers, but there are going to be certain authors who have a certain style that you are going to know and look at. James Patterson, Danielle Steele. Danielle Steele. These are all her books. Look at how similar most of them are. It's going to have her name, some kind of image, usually some kind of seal looking image, very simple, almost clip arty looking image in some of them, and then the title of the book. You can go out on the shelves right now and just look and just see a bunch of them that look exactly like that. Has she been going away from that in recent years? Yes. But that is like a signature Danielle Steele. It's also good for, this is the one I was talking about, Harlequin. These are all Harlequin, but a specific imprint of Harlequin. This is Harlequin Presents. You can see all of them have a man and a woman. Usually the man is in some kind of shirt and the woman is in some kind of dress. And there is that golden ring around the back of them. You will find that golden ring on every single book in this imprint. So if it's a Harlequin Presents book, it's going to have that gold ring in the background. That tells you the book you're reading is a Harlequin Presents. So it'll say Harlequin, but if you see, you can just look at it on the shelf and be, oh, that's a Harlequin Presents. So that's going to be a certain type style of writing or a certain kind of story because that's what Harlequin does. All their different imprints or different story beat sheets that that the writers have to follow. You can expect a certain kind of plot. Usually a rich guy gets a woman pregnant and now they have to get married kind of deal. Or as the most common one for this is series. 9 times out of 10, if you have books that look the same, they're going to be in a series. You don't even have to know what the titles of all these books are. You can just look at them and tell they're probably in the same series. It's the same for all the Harry Potter books. They all look very similar. All the Percy Jackson books, they all look very similar. So it's something that publishers do as an identity kind of thing. So you can look at it and go, oh, that book is, you might not know which place it is in the series, but you know it's part of that series and you want to buy it because it's part of that series. So if you are writing a series, matching covers. Yes. All right. Here's where I get to stand on my soapbox. I don't like AI covers. I do not like AI at all. I do not like generative AI. Um, Primarily because it's theft for the most part. If they are not willing to tell you where the data set that they got that AI from is from, I will not touch it. Because 9 times out of 10, it's just been scraped from random websites, things like DeviantArt or um, fan fiction websites for the writing ones, and it's stolen. So that's why I am very hesitant to touch anything dealing with generative AI. Also, it's really bad for the environment. It takes up a lot of electricity use. Um, I was watching a news segment recently about the uh, Elon Musk's recent AI AI building down in Florida, and it's making the residents nearby sick because it's spewing out smog. Smog is basically polluted air. If you get too much of it, that's how you get acid rain. Mhm. It is basically what happens when the water cycle and you introduce pollution into the clouds. So it's certain types of pollution. I'm not entirely certain the exact ones, but yeah, that's what creates acid rain. So the water up in the clouds will cling to the pollutants that are like dust like, and then they get rained back down to earth. So back in like the 60s and 70s, especially in areas like LA, areas around China, you'd have smog and then it would come through and be acid rain. And that would like tear down and wear away at a lot of like monuments, statues, buildings. So that's my main issues with AI against anti AI. There are some good things about AI. I just think it needs to be worked on better. For one, if you are not an artist, AI can put everything together for you. Um, there are free options for AI generation. Again, I don't like them because they don't tell you where their data sets are coming from, but they do exist. And if you feel okay using them, I don't, but that's a me thing. Um, and it's easy for anyone to do. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be a graphic designer. You don't have to have buy like um what is it called when you pay to have access to something? Hmm, subscriptions. You don't have to have subscriptions to like Shutterstock, Adobe Photostock, Apple Images. You can just have it made. On the flip side, those images might not be copyrighted. There was a case, oh, back in the 90s, 80s or 90s? Maybe even the early 2000s. There was a case involving National Geographic. A monkey had stolen a camera. You know, this is going to be a funny story when it starts off with a monkey stole a camera. So, a monkey stole a camera. All right. I was just still making sure that my thing was on. So, a monkey stole a camera and it took a photo of itself. Like, it's the first animal selfie. It's considered the first animal selfie. Um, and someone else, and National Geographic, of course, plastered this everywhere. So, someone else used the image to make something or to use it in something else. And National Geographic was like, whoa, 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 we have copyright on that. You can't make money off of it. It went to the courts, and the courts were like, well, the way the law around copyright is written, it has to be made by human hands. So the image was not copyrighted because the image was made by monkey hands. But now some people are arguing that AI images are not copyright protected because they are not made by human hands, they are made by machines. So just be careful if you are using AI images to make your cover. Be aware that someone else could come along and steal all those images and use them for something else. And I'm putting quotes around steal because it wouldn't be stealing technically by law. It would be just using random images that they find. It's the same reason why when you're writing a paper you have to cite everything. That it's the same thing. Just so that you can prove that you're not stealing. All right. Going on from the whole AI thing, it's a controversy. You can look up more about it. I just gave a bare notes version and my opinion on AI. I don't like it, but people do. Good on you. Fair warning if you use AI for making your cover, there are going to be people if they figure it out who will find you and review bomb your stuff. I've seen it happen. I do not agree with that practice. I believe if you don't like a book cover or you don't like what someone's doing with the book cover, then just don't buy the book. You don't need to attack the person and send your horde of 1,000 followers from what is it, Twitter? It's gonna be Twitter until the day I die. It's gonna be like the Sears Tower. Um, after the person to review bomb them. You don't have to do that. Just don't buy their thing. Just have some common sense. Really wish it was more common than it is. All right, the making of a good book cover, which is probably what most of people watching are here to even talk about. Do. Are there any questions so far on this? No. Okay. I keep flashing over to my thing because I can't see the chat and see if anyone's asking questions, but I don't think anyone is. So I'm just going to go on with this. Making a good book cover. Books come in various dimensions. You're going to have your trade paperback, your hardback, your children's book, all have different sizes. So when you are making a book cover, you need to know what size your book's going to be. And you might not know that. You might have to figure it out. Well, there are several calculators you can use to figure that out. My personal favorite is Ingram, partially because we buy books from Ingram. I am very much a proponent of if you want to self publish a book, go through Ingram. It might cost you a little bit extra, but libraries buy from Ingram. So Ingram's self publishing is called Ingram Spark. And it is just some libraries won't buy from Amazon. And Amazon is where you're going to find most of the self published books. Ingram Spark, however, will put it into catalogs that libraries can buy from. They will also put it on Amazon too, but there are some libraries who they actually have like written rules that they won't buy Amazon. That is not from us. We will buy from Amazon. We have bought from Amazon before. We prefer to find it elsewhere though, because usually we can find it for cheaper. um, know your genre, know your tone, know your age group. Because if you are writing for kids, you don't want to have a super serious cover unless it's about a super serious thing. No, bright colors, brighter colors for younger kids. Know your audience. Um, that does not mean they cannot be complex for kids. There is a author illustrator called Graham Base who makes the most gorgeous artwork for picture books, and they look complicated, but you can tell they're picture books. But they are gorgeous art. It's the same for like the Polar Express guy. You can look at his art and go, "Oh, that's art for children's art," but it's still amazing art. Versus, say, oh, I have this one right here. It's a space theme. Yep, it's you know it's space themed. They're in space suits and there's outer space, and so right there it tells you your genre, your tone. This could be either YA or adult. So, mhm, yep. So that's kind of like what you're focusing on. Next is going to be your images, and then your font. I've added on here is a link to Ingram Sparks' blog of book cover designs. If you are wanting to self publish, and this includes stuff for like fan fiction or Royal Road, they have a lot of really good things for like editing, formatting, and making your book cover. They also have a calculator. I have the tool on here. Let's see if the I might have to switch. Oh no, it did go to that. Okay, good. Um, you want the weight and spine width calculator. So by the time you're thinking about your book cover, usually, you already know what size you're going to be. Well, 6 by 9 is one of the industry standards. It's the like larger. Um, this is like a 6 by 9. There's a slightly smaller that's like a 5 by 8. That's the tinier paperbacks, and then there's a whole slew for um hardback. But that right there is telling you that it's going to be black and white on the inside, white 50 just cuz the binding is going to be a paperback. Perfect bound means it's going to be glued. And if you want a glossy or a matte cover, Uh, this would be without the tape on it. That would be considered a matte versus I don't know if I have any glossies. It's the really shiny covers. Yeah, I didn't grab one. But the ones that look like they've been laminated almost, versus ones that have just like a flatter, a duller color. We're not duplexing it. And then you're gonna put in your page count. If you do not know how many pages it is, after you do your formatting, there is a formula that is roughly 250 words per page. It's kind of 250 to 300 per page. That's the kind of standard. So let's say you're a 350-page book. Hit the calculate button. It tells you the spine width, which is important. Like you're going to have that 6 by 9 because you know what your front cover and your back cover are going to be. But then you get to do the fun stuff that is spine art. This is when you can get books. If you're doing a series, you can have it so that when they're sitting on the shelf, the spine makes its own image. Yep, like the Percy Jackson books. There's a series out in our adult section called Gilded that has just like it looks like gold water going across all the spines. It is a really cool thing. You find it more often with traditional publishing. That's your publishing house. That's your Simon and Schuster, Scholastic. Um, those kind of ones are the ones that do it more often. Or if it's like a book that's getting re-released, like the Percy Jackson books or some of the Harry Potter books, or If it's getting re-released, sometimes they'll do that and it'll be really fancy. So now going back to this one. Tut. Image sources. Most of these are free and they don't have any copyright. They are what's called common commons. So you can use them anywhere for no price. This is also what we use sometimes for the library for finding our own images. If you get a bought Canva account, that already pays for your image subscription. That's why if you go on to like Canva and you see, oh, I really want to use this. Oh, but it's going to cost me XYZ amount to use it. That's why it's because it's from a subscription service. But I really like Pexels. It is completely free. There is no attribution required, and you can modify the images. For most of these, you can modify the images. Most of them are free, and most of them don't need attribution. I picked those specifically because if you're making your own book covers, that's what you're going to be wanting is images that you do not have to pay for, especially if you are on a budget. So there's those. I will be adding them on later. Canva is also a way they have templates for it for like ebooks and the like. You can make a template. You just need to know what your when you have a book cover, think of a book laying completely flat. So you're going to have the cover, but then you're going to have an edge around it that is about anywhere from a quarter inch to half an inch so that when you bend it into book shape, you won't have the image or your font being ruined. So you'll have like a square and then a little tiny rectangle or a little tiny square around it that will be your bleed in essence, and then you'll have your spine and then you'll have your side with the bleed. And then free fonts. These are also cool if you ever do anything like making your own shirts. A lot of them, some of them are free for commercial use, some of them are not. Check the individual ones. And then your layout software and image manipulators. I use GIMP. It's free. It has a learning curve, but there are YouTube videos. Don't want to make your own? You can find pre-made ones, and people sell them. You can just search pre-made book covers on Google, and there will be websites that come up, and you can buy them. They're usually around 100 to 250, and they cover for like 10,000 copies or 100,000 copies. Or you can pay someone to make them. So there's Fiverr. These are all like freelancer websites where you can pay to have them done. Usually they charge by the hour or they'll charge like a minimum, like they'll charge $10 an hour with a minimum of $250. You get that a lot for like the illustrated ones. But then you own the image because you're paying them for the image to make it for you. And that is my speech for this month. Next month.